This episode is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/Bigfoot Hotspot for your first 30-day trial and a free downloadable book. So tonight we have a special call-in show. Wanted to welcome, I know last couple weeks we've had so many people call in and a lot of people wanting to share their encounters. We decided to do kind of a special call-in show. So if you have an encounter, you want to share an experience, questions, comments, the call-in number is 646-716-8791. And it looks like we have a long list of people that have called in already. So if you're on hold, just hold tight. We'll get to you. Before we actually get to the phone calls, I wanted to mention next week we have Justin Steele on the show. He's a director of a new movie called Hunting the Legend. It's kind of looks like a Bigfoot horror flick. But I wanted to go ahead and play the trailer teaser for you.
Yeah, I guess this place is it's known for Bigfoots.
Everybody has a story.
I've always believed in Bigfoot.
Half of them don't say anything. They don't want people to think they're crazy, too.
Well, it sounded like somebody knocking on wood. It started up on top of the hill.
I heard this god-awful sound.
And he made this awful growling cry.
And the hair on the back of my neck stood up.
New stuff's being found every day.
It smelled like wet dog and blood. I look over and there's this big black figure.
I mean, it was just gigantic.
It was tall. It was like 8 foot tall.
Reddish fur.
When he passed by, like the moon disappeared for a few seconds. It was that big.
It was more human than anything, and it was walking with this.
My name is Chris Copeland. I don't know where I am.
They're out there. They're all around us.
If they're out that way, we need to go out back now.
If there is something out there, and that's actually a cast, it's big.
Looks like a pretty good movie. I don't know if you've seen the trailer yet, Will. I went ahead and threw it up on Facebook for everyone. I'm kind of excited to have him on the show.
Yeah, he should be a good guest. That trailer, if that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what will.
Yeah, it looks like a good movie. I'm pretty excited about it. Well, as I mentioned before, we're doing a live call-in show to share your encounters. I'm not a huge fan of doing doing these type of shows just because, it's nice to kind of talk to the guest and prior to speaking with them. And a few of these I have talked to just before we went on air. And but the first one I wanted to bring on was Ted, and I wanted to have him share his encounters. Let me bring him on the line here. Hey, Ted, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. I have Will on the line with us.
Hi, Ted. How are you?
Good to meet you, Will.
Nice to meet you, too.
Appreciate you coming on the show, Ted. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about you? Now, you had not a daytime sighting, but you had a sighting where you saw the creature, didn't you? Got a pretty good look at it?
Yes. One encounter was, sighting was, got a very good look at the creature, and I guess maybe I should call it something else, but it's a creature, what can I say? It's hard to put a name on it, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever, but all I know is quite a size to it,
Now, what were you doing prior to having the encounter?
I was actually driving home. Where I live at is basically the foothills of the Cherokee National Forest. And I've had numerous things happen up in the woods, and maybe a few questions of my own towards the park rangers over here around the Hiawassee River, if I could even get one of them to be honest with me. There's a trail, a very well-known trail, the Trail of Tears, that runs through a portion of eastern Tennessee. And, you know, in 1996, I went up on that trail and decided to hike it because I wanted to go up and into North Carolina. And I didn't get very far that day. I didn't start my journey out real early. I probably started out about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. I probably should have started earlier, just in the hiking sense, because like I said, I didn't get very far. I got about 3 miles up the trail. I was by myself. Probably the wrong thing to do because I do know that there are bears and there's mountain lions in this region as well. Of course, I know how to spot things in the woods fairly easy, and I can read signs. I've been in and out of the woods my whole life. But on this particular day, it was weird. And now you're taking me back to it. I felt the same way I did that day, helpless. When I got up on that trail, in that part of the trail, I was way away from the river. The woods were nice and quiet. I was walking along, and I seen a shadow. If you ever been in the woods and the sun setting on one side of you, and the tree shadows are on you on one side and maybe on the ground in front of you, everything's nice and peaceful, and then all of a sudden I seen a shadow just dark right in front of me. And immediately I thought, you know, that's not a bird. It's got to be a bear or a mountain lion or something of that nature. And I start looking up towards the direction of the shadow, and of course all I could see was the sunlight beaming through the trees in my eyes. And I tried to put shadow in my eyes where I could see a little bit better. And I was listening. I started hearing walking, like a man walking through the woods. I know what a deer sounds like, any four-legged animal. I know what they sound like in the woods. This was no four-legged animal, and that startled me because up in that portion of the woods, I mean, you're either with someone or you're alone. And where I was parked at the parking area, there were no other vehicles when I parked up there. My truck was the only one sitting there when I started in the trail earlier that day. And I started getting a little spooked and thought, well, there's somebody else out here. Maybe they're hiking in from the North Carolina side, and I'm fixing to walk up on somebody, or I'm going to see somebody. And I didn't walk very much further, probably another 200 feet up the trail, and whatever had moved on my right, I could hear it off in the distance, and it was circling around me, in front of me, on the trail, but way up ahead of me, probably another couple, 200 or 300 feet, just far enough in the woods where you really couldn't see that well. And then it come back over to my left side, and there's a ridge on my left as well. I'm kind of in a valley a little bit. That trail's kind of in a valley in that section before it comes out of that valley, and then there's a rock cliff that you have to climb to get down. And I do know there's some caves up there because I've been in several caves in the past, and I wanted to get up there because there's a good view, and I wanted to get past that rock cliff part, get a little further. But I stopped, and I was listening, and whatever was running up on the left side of me now was running to me. And the footsteps were heavy. And I hollered. I got scared, and I yelled. I said, "Hey!" They stopped. And I walked up the trail probably about 30 foot, and fear set in. I didn't know what it was. I had no knowledge of Bigfoot at the time. And I'm looking to try to see if I can see anything, any kind of movement or anything going on, but it was nothing then. It was just still quiet. Birds weren't even chirping. Normally when you walk a trail, you hear birds and everything's nice and pleasant. It was dead still quiet. So I started, I turned around because I got scared. I turned around. I never really been scared in the woods. I didn't have a gun on me. It wasn't hunting season, of course. When I started back out of there and thought, well, I'm going to do this another day, maybe I'll bring somebody with me, And all these thoughts are running through my head, and it was like I was confused then, because I started out of there, and then I was worried, confused, whatever it was. When I started walking on that trail back out, it would walk with me. And there were no leaves. There was no leaves on the trail, so my footsteps, I was fairly quiet walking. And I did test the theory of stopping to see what it was would keep walking. When I stopped, it stopped. I'd done that approximately 3 times, and I started hearing the faint sound of the river because I was easing back towards the river some. This went on, mind you, for probably an eighth to a quarter of a mile. And when I started hearing that river, I couldn't help myself, but I broke in a run. And I'm 6 feet. I'm 43 years old now. I can outrun all of my teenage kids still. I stay in really good shape. At that time, I was only 26 years old. I hit that trail, and I didn't look back. But the footsteps never went away. As I was running, it sounded like a pounding or a heavy heartbeat, because that's how close they were. The ridge mind you, turning around, that ridge is on the right of me now. And it got a little bit steeper on the trail, even though the trail's down below. Up high, sight was very limited. I could look up and I could only see about 20 foot. And then the way it crested over that hill, you couldn't see no more. The only way to see was to actually climb up there. And there was no way I was going to climb up on that ridge to see what was chasing me. And I made it back to I ran for about 1.5 miles without stopping. And I stopped about 1/4 to 1/2 mile before I got out of there. And I started leaning. I got up on rocks on the edge of the water, and trees were hanging over the edge of the water. So I'm holding on, and I'm leaning back, looking up, and I'm trying to see what it was, because when I stopped, even though I could hear that rushing water, those footsteps, they conquered over that rushing water. They were that loud. But when I stopped, it stopped. And I couldn't see. I stood there for about 5 minutes looking and gazing through some of the treetops to see if I could see any trees shaking, any leaves falling off the ledge of that steep kind of hill there. Nothing. So what I done was I walked back to the edge of it, got away from the river, and I hugged the rocks. And I creeped silently for a little ways until I started to see the parking area and the bridge. And when I seen that bridge, there wasn't nothing stopping me. I broke at a run, and when I hit my truck, I never looked back. I never got an actual glimpse of what was chasing me that day. I did see a shadow move on the ground, and I know what I heard. And it was pretty frightening when you hear something and you don't see it. That's kind of more scary, I think, than actually seeing the creature. Because there's something there. And even that day, after all that happened, I still didn't have hardly any knowledge of Bigfoot at all. Moving forward to 1998, that was in August of 96. It was towards the end of the summer, close to our family reunion. I only remember that because the family reunion was really close to that date. And then in July of 98, I went back up on that trail, but I went on the opposite side of the river. I had those same feelings on the opposite side of the river, but I didn't get near as far. I felt like I was being watched. That was the last time I've been up on that trail, was around July of 1998. I won't even let my children go up there, and they ask me all the time, "Daddy, let's go up on the trail." Well, the Park Service has that trail shut down, and they've got it shut down, I believe, for a reason.
That's pretty interesting that they'd close that.
They closed that trail. Actually, that trail is closed when I went up there in 96 and in 98. There was a sign hanging that said, "Do not walk the trail, no trespassing." Well, I mean, I'm there to walk the trail. I'm thinking, that trail is pretty historic to the people of this country, but yet the Park Service has that trail shut down. And there's a couple more things that's going on. I really want to tell you about. I'm gonna save that till the very end. But in 2012, the day after Thanksgiving, I was hunting about 2 miles from there, 3 miles roughly. My uncle's property kind of joins the Cherokee National Forest. There is about 200 acres of farmland in between his hunting property and that Cherokee National Forest. And I was in an area that me and my uncle never hunt. I didn't know why my uncle never hunted it until after this day that I was up. And I went hiking up on top of a ridge, and I found a good hunting spot. That's where I wanted to go next morning. At about 4 o'clock the next morning, I started up. It took me almost an hour to get to where I wanted to go. I get up there, and I'm hanging out in my hunting spot that I picked out the day before, and I started hearing noises in a thicket back behind me and I remember my uncle telling me, Ted, we don't really need to go past that thicket, and I didn't know why until after this day. As I'm sitting there, I know I made quite a bit of noise getting up there, but I heard something running away from the thicket on both sides of it. It was kind of to the back and to the right of me, and I was thinking, what the world is that? I know I'm the only one out here because this is private land, and I actually flipped my safety off. My gun was loaded. I was ready to go, and I was expecting to see a hunter, orange, kind of it was about a quarter to a half a moon that morning, and I was going to get on to somebody to tell them, hey, you're on private property. Well, as I'm looking back over my right shoulder, looking back at this thicket, wondering what is going on back here, I could see a shadow, a big shadow. Had stepped out of that thicket towards me, but was standing about probably around 30 yards from me, back to the right, sort of behind me. And you didn't have to explain to me what it was. When I took off of that hunting spot where I had picked out of this, there was a tree that was falling down up there, and what made me pick that spot was there were beds around this tree that looked like deer beds, I thought were deer beds. But after thinking back on it, I believe I got into an actual Sasquatch bed and didn't know it. But as I was hiking up that morning, I do believe that I might have startled it, or several of them. And it caused them, I moved them out of their beds, I believe. Because as I'm sitting here realizing what I'm looking at, you could see the figure plain as day in the moonlight at about 30 yards. I was mesmerized. Couldn't move for just a few seconds. But when it dawned on me what it was, when I jumped out of that tree, I must have jumped 20 foot. And I started back down that mountain, kind of in a holler. And I've never run that fast in all my life. And I started thinking about what was just happening to me. Well, the footsteps behind me, the footsteps back to the right of me, and then what was standing back there come out of that thicket. I think I was being surrounded. They were trying to get around me. But these legs are quick. When I made it to my truck, and as soon as I opened my truck door, I could hear something crashing through the woods to the left of my truck up on a hill. You got to remember, it took me almost an hour to get up there. But it took me, I bet, about 10 or 12 minutes to get to my truck. That's how scared I was. And as I'm listening to the sound to the left of my truck, trying to get my door open, I'm trying to unload my gun so I don't shoot a hole in my floorboard, I hear this loud cracking noise, and something come flying through the woods over my head and over my truck and landed in the road behind me. And I jumped in my pickup and started it up, and I tore out of there. And as I flipped my headlights on, it was a log. It was about 3 feet long, looked like it was broken in the middle, like something had picked it up, and it either slapped the side of a tree, or it just threw that one piece and it come crashing through the woods over me and my truck. I quickly got out of there. Well, I went straight to my uncle's because my uncle was supposed to have been there, and we were going to meet up that morning and go hunting. but I got there early, and I went to his house. I woke him up, said he wasn't going to come out there till about daylight, and I explained to him what happened. That's when he pulled his phone out and some pictures out, and he started showing me pictures of 14, 15, roughly inch footprints he's finding in there around the creek. And I said, why didn't you tell me about this? And he said, well, I didn't want to spook you. He said, you're my hunting partner. I said, your hunting partner about lost it this morning. I said, I could have got hurt and maybe even killed, but we went back out there together. I didn't even go in the woods. I wouldn't. I told him, I said, I don't care if you got a gun, we got the Army with us, I'm not going in there. And that's the last time I hunted, was the day after Thanksgiving, 2012. And I won't go back in. I had got a glimpse of that figure. Not only that, there's a house about 2 miles down the road that when you turn off the highway to get back into the hunting property, there's an old woman that had passed away in the nursing home, and her son, he upkeeps that house. And the electric is still on there, still have lights. There's motion lights on the corner. And one night driving through, coming home, as I'm approaching that house, I noticed the motion lights on that house had flicked on. And it caught my attention, so I'm looking at the house. At the corner of this house, this is the sighting. At the corner of this house stood a monster. I mean, a for real 8 foot tall. As I'm slowing down, looking at what I'm looking at, it's almost like it takes your breath. It was huge. I mean, its head come to the gutter, the top of its head. It had to have been 4.5, 5 feet wide at the shoulders. It looked like an athlete. It was amazing. And when I seen that, I actually got a little sick in my stomach, even though I was in awe of it, because I thought to myself, if that is what is in the woods here, I'm definitely done. There's no way. You can't outrun it. You can't talk it down if you piss it off. I think that everybody needs it.
How far away from the creature were you when you saw it?
About 60 yards.
And was this during the day?
No, it was during the night. It was during the evening because I was on my way home, and like I said, that house there, it sits out on the highway, and then right when you pass that house, probably 1/8 of a mile, you'll turn on a county road that runs back into my uncle's property. There's only that house and one other house that's probably 300 yards behind that one on the same county road going back into the property. They're the only 2 houses on that road. Kind of it's a desolated area back in there. A lot of it, like I said, a lot of that land is hunting property. There's roughly, I would say, somewhere around 20 to 25,000 acres. Various people own different portions of the land for hunting property only. There's about 250 acres roughly between all of that hunting property and the Cherokee National Forest. And
what was the creature doing? Was it looking in the windows, or what was it just standing by?
He was looking in a window, and he was kind of turned, not completely sideways, but he was actually facing the window. And I already know that house is empty.
Did it pay any attention to you when you came along there?
Do what, sir?
Did it pay any attention to you when you approached?
No, it did not. It steadily looked in the window. And the motion light, when it kicked on, that's what caught my attention. As when the motion light kicked on, it was, if you're standing in a shadow, in a light, it was about a foot in the shadow of that light, but the lights, the motion lights kicked on both corners of the house. He was very visible. You could make him out real easy. So it's kind of hard to explain. Him standing in the shadows, facing He wasn't actually facing. He was kind of turned probably at a 40-degree angle looking in that window. And as I'm looking at this thing standing there, I'm thinking, what in the world am I seeing what I'm seeing? And, you know, and it, you know, it's just amazing. I mean, it really is. He might have even been closer than 60 yards. But I do know one thing. I slowed down to about 35 miles an hour, 30, 35. And as soon as I got just past it, I sped right up real quickly. I was not going to stop. There's no way.
Yeah.
Because then you got an actual. I mean, I could see the fingers on its hand. I could see the ridges on the top of its feet. You know how the bones are on the top of your feet. I had to imagine, you know, this thing had to wear at least a size 18 shoe. Very thin at the waist, so you could see the muscles in the thighs. You could see the calf muscles. He wasn't standing up straight. He had a slouch to him. His hands, fingers were long. I think his fingers they had to be 6-7 inches long, his fingers. You can make his hands out really good. Matter of fact, his fingertips probably, he wouldn't have to reach down to even scratch his knee. The head was small, wide at the shoulders, 4.5, 5 feet wide. This thing looked like he was wearing shoulder pads, but you could see the muscles in his upper back and neck. Actually, really wasn't no neck at all, because it looked like the back muscles went completely to the top of the head.
Yeah, and the head sits a little lower into the shoulders. Yeah,
because the head was, so as those back muscles look like they come all the way up, it's like the head is dropped down in the front.
Exactly.
And when I was looking at this, I was like, you got to be kidding. But I'm glad I got to see one.
You know, you made an interesting remark when you talked about seeing the top of its feet and seeing the ridges.
Yeah.
That's something I vividly remember about my first encounter. Was I walked into this thing, and it was moving leaves with its right foot, and I can still picture very clearly, you know, what the top of the foot wasn't completely covered with hair. Down towards the toes, it wasn't covered as much there, and I could see very clearly the detail, you know, the tops of the toes.
Right.
And
yeah,
actually the bones that led up the foot also, you know, and the tendons.
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw. You know, if this thing would have turned around and put his feet in the light, there probably would have been hardly no hair on the feet at all.
Yeah, that's kind of what I noticed too. It was more the hair from up around the ankle and the top of the foot sort of, you know, hanging down over that part of the foot.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
It's funny you mentioned that.
Even the hands, seeing the fingers like I did. You would think that there would be gobs of hair hanging off the arms and hands, but there wasn't. Yeah. This thing was very refined. I would say the hair on it probably wasn't no longer than probably somewhere around 2 inches, 2.5 inches.
Right. Right.
The hair was not real long at all. I mean, you could make out the muscle on this guy. He was definitely built for business.
When you look at the Patterson film, that Sasquatch didn't have very long hair either.
You know, I have, you know, with the encounters in 96, 98 up on the Hiawassee, and even the one back in 2012, I really still didn't have no knowledge of these creatures at all. I didn't really start kind of researching the internet and found your radio show. Thank goodness. I'm glad I found that. And now I know I'm not the only crazy person running around the earth.
I'm sure glad you found us too.
And, you know, there's something very strange over here. I mentioned a few minutes ago going on over here around the Cherokee National Forest about these park rangers shutting that trail down. About 7 years ago, we had a little girl, God bless her soul, she was killed up there in the state park. And, you know, I don't know what killed this little girl, but it's the strange part is the Park Service here brought in a team from California to hunt what they claim was a bear. You know how many bear hunters? You know how many bear hunters live in East Tennessee alone?
And they should know more about it there than people from California.
Yeah, because we know these woods over here.
Exactly.
You know, we know the way of the land. We know what they eat, where they sleep. You know, like I said, I've crawled in several caves in this area and found beddings up in the and of course I assume these are bear beds. Of course, you wouldn't really know unless you actually hung out in the cave and waited for something to crawl in there, and that's something I am not going to do.
Let me ask you a quick question. You know, while you're on the subject of beds, you mentioned seeing the beds previously. Can you describe those to us?
Very matted down, like they were pushed down on purpose. You're talking about the ones up on the hunting property?
Yeah, was it just in tall grass, or was it in something else, or was it material brought in? Or
the beds were around this huge tree that had fell down. I don't know if the tree fell down from dying or it was an old tree, a lightning got it. I don't know. But what made me pick that tree was the way it was laying. The roots were sticking straight up out of the ground. When I walked to the very top of the roots, or from the tree all the way up to the roots. I was about 8 or 9 feet off the ground sitting on. There was a couple roots that kind of branched out. I sat in. I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna sit right here. I don't have to drag a deer stand up here and climb a tree. This is plenty high enough to look at this game trail and to look down at the bottom between these couple hollers here. This is a good spot." Well, the beds. There was a lot of leaves piled up around this tree, and in the center of the leaves were all pushed down into beds. And the beds, really, after thinking about it, I ain't been back up there since that day. I mean, I flat refuse to go out there unless I'm with several people. You know, when me and my uncle went back out there, I didn't feel safe with me and him holding guns. I said, I'm not going back in. I said, I'm going home. If you want to go in there, have a good day. There's no way. But the beds, there was a lot of small limbs piled up around this tree. This tree was probably 40 or 50 feet long. I mean, it's a huge tree laying there on the ground up on the very top of this one small mountain up around a laurel thicket. And we've never been in that thicket up there, and it goes back in there quite a ways. I do know it probably covers a couple 100 yards on the top of that ridge that we've never been in. It's too thick up there. You know, and like I said, after what happened that morning, see, I can't say for certain because didn't one step out there in the daylight and say, "How you doing, Ted?" I probably messed myself, but I do know what was going on around me at the time. Seeing the shadow, the outline, hearing the footsteps running in 2 different directions, and I got out of there very quickly. When I come home, I was upset, and I think I was more upset with my uncle not sharing the footprints with me that he had took pictures of. And you know, we had drip bags out there hanging that were, some of them were 7.5, 8 feet off the ground, and something kept taking them down. And because my uncle had asked me, "Did you take that drip bag down?" I said, "No, I didn't touch it." You know,
that kind of rules out a bear, doesn't it?
Definitely rules out a bear. Definitely rules out anything, really. Even a deer standing on its hind legs ain't gonna get no taller than 6 foot. I guess they could probably reach a little bit more with their neck extended, but I don't see that happening.
Well, I know we have a lot of other callers today. I wanted to ask you first, though. You had mentioned you have a hard time going in the woods again.
Yes. I don't want my children in the woods right now. You know, I'm not all about shooting one of these things. I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression of me. I definitely don't want to see one killed. I sure would like to be able to get back in the woods one day and hunt comfortably. Just right now is not a good time for me. I mean, these encounters happened to me a long time ago, and they still bother me because after what happened to me out here at the hunting property, and what I saw over here at this old house before you get to the hunting property, I definitely, want to be more cautious about myself in the woods, and I don't want my children out there.
Ted, send us an email, and I'll send you some pictures of things for you to watch for.
Okay.
It'll give you a little heads up so you're not just caught cold out like that.
Right. That'd be great. You want my email now?
No, you can send it over if you want to bigfoothotspot@gmail.com.
Sure. Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we sure appreciate you sharing your encounters. I know how hard it is to share an encounter when you've had one. It's one of those things to where, like you mentioning the hands, that takes me back to what I remember seeing. I had limited light, but I remember, God, I shouldn't be able to make out this much detail from where I'm at and with the light that I have. But the creature's just so big that, you're just like, oh, Jesus, I can make out all 5 fingers on this thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, even in him standing in the shadow of those motion sensor lights, it still, lights him up to a degree. And there was no hiding the fact that you could point out all the detailed, features about this guy. And, I mean, I really recommend anybody they really need to see it. If they love the outdoors, they really need to see one. Because your jaw is going to drop.
Yeah.
And you're going to start asking yourself questions. What am I looking at? Is this real? I drove onto the house and all these things kept running through my mind, and a happy feeling too. And I was thinking, man, I finally got to see one of those things, and they're huge, and I want to see them from a distance. I don't want to see them up close, but
kind of helps you put two and two together from when you heard the thing, escorting you out the first time. But we should.
Right, I told my wife the very same thing, because I recently talked to her about what happened to me back up on that trail. Because I tried to forget about that. I mean, you can't forget, but that they probably were escorting me out. They probably didn't want me up in there. That was their range, not mine.
Yeah.
If they wanted to harm me, they probably could have easily.
Yeah, I'm sure they could have if they wanted to. Do this for me, Ted. Send me an email, will you, with your contact info? Again, sure. It's I have your number, but it's bigfoothotspot@gmail.com. And let's touch base in the future. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing your encounters. We really do appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. It's very, very nice to meet you two.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah,
okay,
thank you so much.
You guys have a good day. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was a good encounter, man. I enjoyed hearing the story. Yeah.
Yep, very interesting.
I want to welcome No Shoes Curly in our chat room. We're huge fans, man. There's a guy in there called No Shoes Curly.
My buddy's in the chat room.
Yeah. We're huge fans.
Down wearing his debonair paper pants.
Yeah, well, I thought I saw him in there. He was saying that he's having trouble finding paper bags, and the plastic bags don't work out so well. So,
now what's he going to do when he goes to a place where they charge for paper or plastic?
Yeah,
they're going to make the man go naked.
Yeah. Oh man, too much. Well, we got a long list of callers. I really hadn't planned on doing a 2-hour show, but I don't know if we're going to have to.
I know we might have to.
But next, so if you're if you want to call in, share your encounter. The phone number again is 646-716-8791, and our next call is 207. I think that's Brian that we spoke to right before we went on the air. Let's bring him on and hear his encounter. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Just peachy. Glad the snow's gone.
Yeah. Well, I have Will here on the line. Why don't you tell us what you were doing prior to that led up to your encounter, and then kind of walk us through the encounter.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Connecticut, but I moved up to Maine in 1989 with my mom and my sister, and I lived in Maine pretty much my whole life since '89. Well, I moved to Hollis, Maine about 3 years ago, and I noticed a lot of things were happening. The trash was getting knocked over a lot, and the bags were getting ripped open, and I couldn't figure out what was doing it. So I started putting them in bigger containers that locked down, and my stepdaughter, about a week after that happened, my stepdaughter wanted a pet rabbit. So we got her a rabbit, and he's outside. He's an outside rabbit. And let's see, I'd say about a week into having the rabbit, I noticed bangs, like, I don't know, it was like somebody taking a baseball bat and smacking trees. And I was like, I thought at first it was my brother-in-law, fooling around with me and stuff. But I realized he lives 8 miles away. He's not going to come at 2 o'clock in the morning to bang on trees, So I started getting into, realizing that maybe it was a bear or something. I didn't want my stepdaughter outside during the daytime because, if it's going to happen at night, it's going to happen during the day. Well, things started just going down weird, howls, and I'm like, oh, man, we moved to a spot where there's mad wildlife, and I don't know if I should trust my daughter being outside, So I just had a baby a little while back, about 7 months ago, and I noticed something really peculiar. Every time he would cry, I would, just kind of like get him not to cry anymore or whatever, and it seemed like he was still crying, but he wasn't crying. He was like a mimic, outside. And I was like kind of going nuts at first. And
I think we lost him. I think our switchboard dropped him. Yep, it looks like it dropped him.
Oh, great. He probably doesn't know either.
Yeah, I have his number. I wonder if I should, I saw it on the caller ID. I wonder if I should call him back real quick.
Yeah, give him a try.
Feel bad. We got 55 calls in queue. Everyone hold tight. We're going to try and get to you. That's why I don't do call-in shows.
Yeah, Blog Talk definitely has
enter your
issues.
mailbox number.
Nope. That's too bad.
Well, we should just go ahead and move on to the next one and
I'll
call
watch
him another
for it.
time and apologize to him.
Yeah, Brian, if you're listening, call back into the show, 646-716-8791. 609, I think this is Chris and Ed. Hey, is this Chris? Hello?
Hello?
Hey, is this Ed?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Ed, it's Wes and Will. How are you?
Good. We're really enjoying the show tonight.
Oh, we appreciate it. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
So, Ed, I know that you and Chris both had encounters. Do you want to start, or does Ed want to start?
Well, I'm the dad. I'm Ed, and I'm ready. Mine is really short because most of my life, going back to 1963, I thought it was an 850-pound grizzly bear. Not a grizzly, a black bear. I grew up near Lake George, New York, Glens Falls.
Yeah.
And you want me to start with what happened?
Yeah. Tell us what you were doing and kind of what led up to it.
Yeah. I had a drop-dead gorgeous blonde girlfriend, and I was with her. I was leaving for military college the next morning, and I wasn't allowed to have the car that night. I picked my dad off, and anyways, he was punishing me. But I couldn't not say goodbye, so it's about 10 o'clock at night, and we're at the foothills of the Adirondacks. She lived on what was called Cottage Hill, part of Queensbury. I lived in Glens Falls. Now, it is so black that you couldn't see the white line in the road, and you couldn't see, like, the white sneaker. Now, this was about the 20th of August, 1963. And I'm walking down Aviation Road by feel. You know, there's a crown in the road, and I'm just walking down it, and probably 15 minutes down the small mountain, I feel, I can't see anything. I feel these thuds, the whole, on sandy soil, the ground shook, and I had a funny feeling. I had all my hair stood on end, what I had at the time at military college, and didn't have much. But this, whatever it was, came right up to me. I would say bipedally, was walking on 2 feet. And, I mean, you know, I assumed it was a bear, and I'll tell you why later. But it came up to about 3 feet from me. I had never been so afraid in my life. It was like I knew something wasn't right, or there was an aura or an emanation that it was giving off. And it, like I said, it stopped about 3 feet away. I'm breathing so hard, and I'm so scared, I didn't even try to smell what it was. And I figured out the best thing to do. I did a deep knee bend. I jumped about 3 feet straight up in the air. I had my hands, you know, my fingers curled like claws, and I let out a ki, which I didn't even know what it was until maybe 30 years later, like a Japanese battle cry. And, I mean, I let out, you know, like a life or death scream, and I came back down on my bended knees. And I just stood there with my hands out in front like claws. And if I counted, it was probably a minute, but my heart was almost pounding out of my chest. And whatever it was turned around and lumbered off. I mean, every step shook the ground. So, and then, you know, our first caller, he was talking about how fast he ran and everything. Well, I'm a military cadet at the time, and I ran down the rest of the hill. I know I was taking 30-foot strides. I was so scared. I don't even know what the mile or so that I ran, but I'm sure Jesse Owens wouldn't have beat me. And so, anyways, I get to military college. I told my mother, and it seemed that same night, there was an 850-pound black bear marauding our neighborhood. And the local Glens Falls police put 200 rounds into him, and they found him downtown in a cellar hole at the Ridge Bookshop and blah, blah, blah. The rest of my life, I figured it was a bear that came up after me. So until we started hearing the shows and reading Kawani's book and all kinds of stuff, you know, I figure now it probably was a Sasquatch that came up and, you know, wanted to talk to me, but I couldn't even see it, so all I had was fear. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it, Ed. Well, you know, it doesn't sound like black bear behavior to me. I mean, black bears don't.
No, and I'm with you because of everything that I've studied. You know, later, let's just say maybe the last 10 years, I thought, yeah, there was some show, I think, where the guy gets a moose head, and he goes in with moose, and because he's up as high as they are, they accept him. And I was thinking because I jumped so high, you know, maybe I scared the bear away, and I went through all these misnomers, but I'm learning.
Yeah, it's too bad it was so dark that you couldn't get a good look at it.
It was, I mean, you can just understand, I'm not afraid of the woods. It just, you couldn't see anything. And it was a shame because, you know, maybe he would have communicated with me. I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
or had you for dinner.
Or killed me.
Yeah.
I have Chris right here, and any questions, we're sitting together. We're actually out in Sasquatch territory, but here he is.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your encounter.
Hey, Wes.
Hey, Chris. I got Will on the line, too, as well.
Oh, hey.
How are you?
Will, everybody. Woody, how's everybody doing?
Doing good. Doing good. Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
You got it. Yeah, my dad, I kept taking him back through what happened to him. He told me that all growing up. And I said, Dad, a bear doesn't walk up on you on 2 feet like that. I said, you would have heard 4 feet. I said, was it on 4 feet or 2? He said, no, it was on 2 feet. And he kept talking about it. And I said, that's not a bear. I said, you had a Sasquatch encounter. So I got him listening to all these shows, and he's all, he's a believer now.
Well, we appreciate you guys coming on. I'm sure if a bear would have had the nuts to walk up on him like that, it would have attacked him, because, black bears will generally run from you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and they don't walk up on you like that on 2 feet across a field 100 yards. They're not going to walk up on you on 2 feet. They might go up and sniff a little bit, but they're not going to walk on 2 feet.
No. Well,
I don't think even grizzly bears.
Yeah, well, not even grizzly bears. Bears can't really walk that well on 2 feet. They can walk on 2 feet, but generally not for very long, and they're kind of clumsy. Yeah, they're kind of clumsy on 2 feet.
Yeah. Well, I started. I just started checking this stuff out a couple years ago. I started getting into a little bit of this stuff, and I had an experience back in '97 in Shenandoah, which I couldn't really explain. I was out camped on the Appalachian Trail, and I just stayed in my tent the whole night, and just the whole night I just heard just weird noises all night, and so that kind of got me kind of a little bit somewhat interested in something, but I didn't even know what it was until later down the road. So I started getting into a little more, but after I started watching that Finding Bigfoot show, I started kind of getting a little more interest, listening to different shows and this and that, and then I realized, I said, I'm right on I live right on the edge of the Pinelands National Forest, New Jersey, and there's, I started going on the BFRO website, and there was a lot of sightings, all through the area here. So I said, I might as well start going out every Sunday and just take my wife with me, and we'll go kind of squatch around and then go get dinner, and that's what we started doing every Sunday. Just like today, we're out. I took my dad with me. And we went out to Bass River State Park, and we didn't see anything. I was like, it seems like the more people there are around, the less of them, whatever I was experiencing, like in February. Like I had a pretty cool encounter there. That was my first. That kind of made it a little bit more real for me. I went out there, and I was with my wife, and it was just before dark, and she finds all these prints, these big footprints on the beach there. So we took some pictures, and I said, this is February. I said, nobody got here barefoot, especially after all this snow and rain and stuff. I said, this is not from the summertime. And she says, I know they're huge. They're like, probably 18 inches. I have some pictures. I could forward them to you. I put my hand next to them for size value. And then I was out, and she's like, let me make a couple of those calls like I do on the show. I said, all right, go ahead, make some calls, honey. So she makes some calls into the woods, and she doesn't have very good hearing or eyesight. And so I get out of the car, and I'm just kind of out there listening and just kind of hanging out before dark. And I start hearing jibber jabber, like Japanese people, like. I was like, hey, do you hear that? She's like, I didn't hear anything. Get back in the car. Let's get the heck out of here. It's getting really creepy. And I kept hearing it. I kept hearing the jibber jabber. She couldn't even hear it. So I said, you know what? Let me just get the heck out of here. This is weird. I knew there was nobody else in the state park. And anyway, after that, I went online and I saw there was a state police officer who had a huge report on a website, and I think the BFRO followed up with him, and he has a really cool encounter at Bass River State Park. So if you just look up Bass River State Park Bigfoot, that comes up, and he saw two. He saw a like a 6 or 7 foot one and a 5 foot one, and anyway, so then we started going back down.
Let me ask you this, Chris: how far away from you was that chatter?
It was like as far away as it could possibly be, but for me to still hear it. That's how I could describe it. It was as far into the woods as you could possibly hear somebody talking or something talking.
Did it sound like this?
Just like that, exactly like that. That would be exactly, but maybe even like a little more chattery.
Interesting. I was just kind of curious. You mentioned the chatter. And
yeah,
so
it was like Japanese. It was weird. It was like a whole nother. I was like, what the? I was like, that is creepy. So we just got the heck out of there. My wife's like, there's probably some campers back there. I'm like, hey, it's February. Nobody's camping here, and there's no cars. It wasn't even like a Ranger car. I mean, this place was like desolate.
Interesting. And so it wasn't like monkey chatter. It was more of sounded like the Japanese.
No. Yeah, this had like more of like a Japanese kind of like samurai type flavor to it. It was like some kind of like some weird flick you might catch on TV late at night.
And you're out in Ohio, aren't you?
No, New Jersey. I'm right along the I'm on the edge of the Pinelands National Forest. Bass River State Park is probably only about, I would say, maybe 20 to 25 miles out of Atlantic City. So we're not far from civilization. Actually, we're out in a spot right now that's actually I come out to this other spot that I had my next encounter, and this place is it's a wildlife refuge. And you can only get in the daytime. There's no hunting here, and it's a large area. It's all blocked off. And this borders the Pinelands National Forest. I won't say where it is just because I don't think I'm even supposed to be out here. This is all blocked off. But at night, this place gets really creepy. It gets weird. It's around midnight. All of a sudden, this place gets real. It just becomes alive. And so the next encounter was we went to our favorite restaurant, my wife and I, and we closed the joint. We're like, all right, well, it's getting late enough here. Let's go out there and let's go sit and just hang out. Try a couple of those calls or something. I didn't really know what I was doing. So I was just like, I'll make a couple calls. I made a couple calls, nothing happened. She makes a call and she does like these funny little things. I mean, I have it on. It's funny. I should actually forward it to you, but she does these little woo woo woo, kind of feminine and stuff. And she's like 5'2", 107 pounds, and all of a sudden to the right, like almost immediately to the right of us in this, there were like pitch pines. It's like pitch pine forest with brush, barb brushes. It's really swampy / pitch pine / marsh. I mean, it's a real weird area, and it kind of goes in between grassland to little patches of like little forests, little, and then again openings, and then marshlands, and then trees, and then like shrubs. It's like pretty much everything. So there's everything out here from cactus to lizards to fox to turkeys to anything you can imagine is like pretty much out here. And this is right near where the Jersey Devil sightings were. And right up alongside my big van, I have a Ford E150 van. Comes these huge, like my dad said, lumbering footsteps, 6 of them. They came right up alongside the car. And my wife, she looked out the window, and I had it down about halfway. And I have the security system on my van, so it takes me a minute before to start the car. I have to turn off the security system, so I have to press the unlock button. So she's screaming, get the heck out of here, blah, blah, blah. And she has her eyes. She wouldn't even look at the thing. And I guess Native Americans say they wouldn't even they said don't look him in the eyes, but instinctively she just covered her eyes and just started screaming. And so I just got the heck out of there. And when we got far enough away, I actually talked during the going back. I said, listen, let's go get a couple drinks over this spot over here. We'll get a couple glasses of wine. I said, you got to come back with me. I got to go see, what the heck that was. I mean, that had to be all made up. And she really didn't want to go back. She was freaked. She said, she's like, Chris, she's like, I thought this was just like a joke. Like we would just go out here and this was like something we would do to spend time together. I didn't think there was really anything out there. She really thought I was like, just kind of like nuts, but she was just going along with me. So she said she saw the whole, this oval-shaped figure, dark figure, and it was looking right at her through these reeds. And I said, well, we got to go back there. I said, I got to go back. And she said, you're not going back with me. You leave me there at the bar. So finally, after a couple of drinks, she comes back with me. And so I go back out to the same spot, and I just start doing a couple of whoop calls. And she wouldn't let me open her window, so I open up my window, and I do them out the other end. And as soon as I did like a little whoop, immediately right back, whoop, right back. I did it again. I did it 3 times, immediately right back. And that was it. She was done. She was like, she was done. She was like, I'm done. Get the hell out of here. So we took off, and that was the last time she came squatching with me. But my dad's been coming with me, and my dog Champ, and we've been hanging out. We haven't had any action for a few months, but we've just been coming out and hanging out, having a good father-son time together. Yeah. Do you ever worry at all when you're out there? No, not really. It's like right now I'm out here in the middle of like nowhere here, and I'm not even supposed to be back in this area. And maybe I should be a little more worried, but I'm in a big van, and I kind of, I got my dog here, and I got my. I figure if my dad, if anything goes down, I'm ready to get the heck out of here. But I kind of want to have another experience because it was kind of. I've had some experiences, but I don't know. I don't really have the. I mean, my wife's scared to come back out, but I kind of want to. For some reason, I'm still interested. Yeah. It kind of once you've had something happen, it's kind of hard to. It kind of consumes you after a while. I'm sure Will agree with me. I wouldn't want to be out camping though. I hear about these people going out camping, people camping alone and stuff, and going out there and sleeping out there and giving them food gifts. I'm like, I'm not doing anything like that. I'll sit in the car with my dog. I have a 105-pound American Bulldog and my dad. I said, we'll hang out here, but I'm not doing the food. I'm not camping out here in these. I mean, these forests are real creepy. I'm telling you, after about midnight, it gets even the whole vibe of this whole place changes because everybody goes to bed and there's nothing going on here. And it's what's really funny. This is the thing I've noticed the most is that all the deer. I'm telling you can't go more than a mile without deer coming across the road, and they make you stop your car. And you would actually hit one every mile or so. They actually, it's like they're attracted to the car. And I was thinking to myself after a while, I said, why would they be coming out to the road so much? And my dad said, they might be scared of something. They might not want to be in the forest. They might be they really hang around the homes back there. And they really hang around the lights. Like, if they see cars, they come right out on the road. And the whole family, all of them. And they stick all together. It's not like just one and then another one and then another one, but the whole herd of deer will come right across the road and come right back across the road. And I mean, like, they just keep doing it. It's funny.
Yeah, those deer know what's good for them.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. I love your show. We've been listening every week for about 6 months now, so I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate you and your dad listening. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I know you guys got lots of callers, but thanks again for having us on.
Oh, thank you, Chris. And tell your dad, tell your pops I said hi and tell him thank you.
All right. You got me. The squash be with you. All right, guys. Take care.
Oh, I'm telling you, Will, we might have to do another one of these shows. I'm not.
I think so with the list, is there still a pretty big waiting list there?
57 calls in queue right now. Yeah. Let's see. Well, let's just pull the next one on. 740. I believe this is Lynn. Hey, Lynn, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. How are you?
Oh, doing pretty good. Thanks for holding on, sitting on hold. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, so why don't, Will's on the line too.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
And why don't you go in and tell us what was going on in what you were doing prior to your encounter and tell us what happened with your encounter.
Okay. Well, my first encounter was back when I was 18 years old. And at that time I was living in Ohio as well then, and born and raised here actually in Ohio. And I live in the southern portion. I live in a little city called Lancaster. Well, it's not too little anymore, but back at that time it wasn't really big. And it's about a 15, 20-minute drive from Hocking Hills National Forest land. So I had gone to my high school boyfriend's house for the evening, and his family fixed us dinner. And at the end of dinner, his dad wasn't always a very nice person. He tended to kind of torment us kids and the dogs and stuff. And as we started to do that night, I kind of got a little ticked off with it, and I just told my boyfriend at the time, I said, you know what, I said, I'm taking this one dog that we kind of claimed as ours, and I said, I'm going to take him for a walk. And where they lived was out in this little resort setting, but it was outside of town, and it was settled into the woods, and it's called Pine Lake Resorts. Well, when you go into it, it's a lake, and at the front of the lake is a dam, so there are no houses on this dam, but the road crosses the dam, and then it just makes a complete circle around the lake. And on one side of the lake and then on the opposite side of the lake are the houses, and they face the lake. And then on the back side of the lake at that time, it had been undeveloped. So on the side of the lake on each side where there's houses, that section of road is paved, and it's a little wider. Even though it's one lane, it's kind of wide enough to allow for two cars. But as you get to the back side where it's undeveloped, that just narrowed into more or less of a single car size dirt path that would go around the back there because it wasn't developed. Now the brush and the trees and stuff were really tall, way taller than me, and I'm about 5'8", 5'8.5". So the dog, and it was early winter, late fall, early winter, and I headed down the paved road part towards the back of the lake with full intentions of just walking it completely around the lake. And wasn't too far into the walk, maybe just a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and the dog started to act funny, started to kind of whine. He'd kind of sit down and sit right in front of my legs and stare off to the woods, and he just didn't want to go. So, I kept making him go. As we were heading that direction, I would make him go, and it finally dawned on me I was hearing something walk in the woods with us, and it was walking on 2 feet. Wasn't walking on 4. I've been out in the woods enough to at least hear stuff as it comes through brush and all that you kind of get an idea that it's breaking through brush. It's on 4 feet. This wasn't. It was just walking right alongside of the road, practically right alongside me. It didn't take me too long to realize I kind of caught a foul smell, but first part of the walk, I didn't really hear anything. Now, on the closer I got to the back side of the lake, the dog started to become more and more disturbed about something. It would look to the side of me, and then he started to look towards the front of us. And as I got a little closer to that dirt road, my nerves were just really kicking in big time. So I just thought, I'm not going on that dirt section. We're going to turn around, and we're going to walk back. And so as soon as we turned around, the dog's practically trying to drag me home. And so we kept walking, and whatever was beside me had turned around, and it was pacing right along with me on the way back. And I know, Wes, earlier I had said to you that I hadn't heard any sounds. I got myself confused on my second encounter. On this one, I heard some heavier breathing. I heard what I thought might have been a grunt, but I'm really not too certain whether it was a grunt or just heavier breathing. But as I continued on and got to the clearing where the houses start to get where the houses are built, and where you can end the woods and start for the clearing for the houses, I just started to walk a little bit faster, and as I got past that point, this hellaciously loud scream came out, and it just vibrated right through me. And at that point, I just took off running, and I ran back to my boyfriend's house, which he was coming down the driveway at the time to meet me, because they had heard that scream in their house. It was just a scream that reverberated right through my chest. I mean, it just, to this day, I can still feel how that felt when that happened. And that's been a really long time ago. So I went inside his house and told his dad. His dad's like, what the heck was that? And I said, well, I don't know. I told him what happened on the walk and how something was following me and how something appeared maybe to even be down at the end of the lake. And then, when I came back, I said I got past the woods and into the clearing area there, and I said it screamed. And he said, that was just all coincidence. He said, at that point in time, we had a low-level type prison system for boys, probably about another, 4 or 5 miles past their house. And he said, well, one of those boys has escaped the prison system, and he said, they were just following you. He said, lucky you probably didn't get raped down there. And I said, I don't think it was anything like that, because if it was, it had to be an extremely heavy person walking in the woods, because you could hear the thud, 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 thud of the feet. And it wasn't like just breaking leaves or breaking little branches, it was a definite impact to the ground. And then he said that the scream was just a bobcat, because he said, we've had some bobcat sightings out here, and that was just a bobcat. Well, I was 18. I really didn't know much about Bigfoot. I'd heard a few stories from my uncle who lived in Idaho at the time about Bigfoot, and I had seen the Patterson film when I was about 8 or 10 at the movie theater, but I still really didn't know very much about Bigfoot, and I guess the last thing you'd think of in Ohio is running into Bigfoot. So I never thought too much about it. Well, fast forward about another 8 years, I moved to the state of Idaho, lived at Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I don't know if you guys are familiar where that is, but moved there to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yeah.
And, okay, well, my husband and I ended up getting married out there in Idaho. My uncle and aunt were still out there, and they lived in Kellogg. And my uncle had quite a few mining claims throughout Idaho, Montana, and Washington State. And so this one mining claim that he had was just outside of Wallace, Idaho, and he had a pole barn on this plot of land, and he kept his supplies and stuff in there. So he had asked my ex-husband and I if we would care to clean this barn. And we said, yeah, sure, we would do that. So we went out to do that. We drove through the little pasture area there to get to where you had to cross through the creek. You drive through the creek, up a little embankment, then you just kind of top the embankment, and that was a little piece of level area there right where the pole barn was, and you just park your vehicle there, clean and take care of the barn. And then right behind the barn, it just jotted straight up to go up the mountainside, and you could have another little ledge up there, and then it went on up the mountainside. So we came through, we crossed the creek, we go up the little embankment and just get to the top of it, but I don't think we even had all 4 tires up on the level spot. I think, if I remember right, we only had the front 2, and there was a big tree down across there. And my ex-husband got a little upset because he's like, why would your uncle put this tree here knowing that you and I were coming out here and we'd have to move this tree, especially since at the time I was about 4 or 5 months pregnant. Like, it it really struck me funny because I would have never thought my uncle would do that. But when we got out and we moved it as much as we could to get the truck up there on all 4 tires, and then he just hooked it up to the truck and moved the tree the rest of the way off. So he turned the truck back around facing the creek. We stopped and got out, and we cleaned the pole barn out. It was full of pack rats, and so he killed off a bunch of pack rats, and he just kept throwing them out back. We had taken a .22 with us. We had also taken fireworks with us because when we went, this was like the last part of June, first part of July, right around the 4th of July time frame. And so we had the .22, and we were just done cleaning the barn, getting rid of the pack rats, getting ready to leave. We'd taken some things out to the truck that we were supposed to take back with us. And we came back in the barn, and I started hearing things hitting the back side of the barn. They were facing the mountainside. And, of course, so did he. And I looked at him, and I said, what in the world is that? And he said, I don't know. He said, it almost sounds like a hailstorm. And we went out and looked, and about that time, some good-sized rocks were coming down that mountainside, and some of them were quite as large as even a baseball. And they were coming down with quite a bit of force, and they were putting dents into the pole barn. And then you'd hear what we quickly realized, was like breaking of branches, and then these bigger branches started getting hurled down that mountainside. Well, we were running back in to the barn because every time we came out, it would start throwing. All this stuff would start being thrown at us. And it started, we were trying to get to the truck, to leave and get out of there. And the truck was just far enough that we couldn't get to the truck safely. And so we went back into the barn, came out a few more times trying to make the mad dash to the truck, had stuff thrown at us again and again and again. We could never see anything up there because of the way the ledge was, and it was all heavily wooded. We couldn't see anything, but we could tell it was coming from that general ledge. And so we got back into the barn, and by now I'm crying. I didn't know what it was. I had a kind of suspicion, I guess, that I was thinking, is this like a Bigfoot reality coming true? But I wasn't really sure. But by now I'm crying. I'm thinking, I've got a 14-month-old son with my aunt right at the moment, and pregnant for our second child, and we're not going to get out of here alive. And so my ex-husband said, here, take the .22. He said, I'm giving you the .22. I'm going to light these firecrackers, and that's those little packets where you light the fuse and a whole bunch of them go off, sounding like multiple repeating gunshots. And he said, I'm going to throw that at the hillside. When I throw that, run. He said, run, run, run. And he said, and if you have to, shoot the .22. But he said, run for the truck. And that's exactly what we did. As soon as those fireworks went off, we ran like crazy for the truck. We jumped in the truck, and it was a standard truck. So he just pushed the clutch in, and I know it was rolling down the embankment, probably to what he did was probably just jump the clutch to make the truck start. And we kept on going. As soon as we got across that creek, we heard this god-awful scream again. And all it hit me was, that's that same exact scream that I heard all those years ago in Ohio. So the other thing my ex-husband was really upset about is as we left, we got hit in the back of the truck with a nice big tree branch too. So it was still trying to throw things at us, but I would say the firecrackers probably bought us the time we needed to make it to the truck. A couple days later, before that, when we got home, we told my uncle what had happened, and he kept saying, Bigfoot, that's a Bigfoot encounter. You had a Bigfoot encounter. He was trying to keep you guys in the barn. And, we asked about the tree. He said, why would you put that tree down knowing that we had to move it, and me being pregnant and stuff? And he said, I never put a tree down there. So a few days later, he got a group of guys together to go out there and check things out. And we, mainly me, reluctantly really went back with him. But the one guy that went up towards that ledge said, these tree branches that were thrown down there at the back of the barn, which they were all there. It was just like a big debris pile of rocks and tree branches. He said that you could see where they had ripped them off the tree, and or whatever it was ripping them off the tree, throwing them to throw them down there, and it was just like green wood. And he said they snapped it off like kindling. So, and they were big branches, and they weren't anything real small. They were big. And he said it was up pretty high for where they were ripping it off the tree. And really, that's really about. Pardon?
No, go ahead, Len. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just going to say that was really, pretty much what I could say. That was I don't believe that they found any foot tracks. I know that there were more times than not that, these guys went back out there searching. I never heard whether they found any footprints or anything like that. I just know that, from what happened to us, they were very adamant that it was a Bigfoot encounter.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of curious, when it was pacing you in the woods, was it pacing you from behind or was it pacing you from the side?
From the side. It was right beside me.
Yeah, and that's crazy about it throwing the tree in the middle of the road. Woody and I came across that too, to where something had tossed a tree in the middle of the road, and we were trying to figure out why would someone do that, who would toss a tree in the middle of the road, and why would someone do that? But
well, I guess, when I'm thinking back at times, I could see, because it was private property there, with it being my uncle's claims, but if he was sending us out there to clean the barn, I really couldn't believe that he would block the entry. I would think if he was going to try to do that, he would have told us, and like he said, he didn't put it down there.
Yeah, how has your feelings changed? I mean, how do you feel about the subject now that you've had these experiences?
It's intriguing. I watch things on TV, or I found you guys on the internet. I want to hear more things about it. But to this day, I just don't go back in the woods. And I love the woods. I grew up with horses and stuff, and I rode from morning to night all the time. Never thought anything in the world about it. Took off on trails. Even when I first moved to Idaho, I got, which is probably foolish, I got up on my horse at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and just took off and hit a mountain trail and went riding. And I did take I think it was a 30-06 with me at the time. I'm not real big into guns, but I think that's what my ex-husband gave me to carry in case I ran into something that I needed to, but I don't think that would have done anything for a Bigfoot. Yeah. And, but I feel like I'm not brave enough now to do that. I don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
And I would love to buy a little piece of land somewhere out where I can have my son's horses. Now, now that my kids are grown and stuff, my oldest still actively shows horses. I would love to have a piece of land out where I could have the horses so that I could keep them there, and be able to go out and ride and do things myself, but I don't feel comfortable and safe doing that anymore.
Yeah. And the scream you heard, was it anything that you've ever heard before? Like a bobcat scream? Or?
Well, the scream that really kind of set me back off that I heard was one of your screams that you were playing one night on one of your shows. I know I said this earlier, and it maybe states me again. It's in Washington State. It's not
Puyallup.
Yes, thank you. I don't know why I cannot remember that name. But you had played some screams one night on one of your programs, and there was some screams in there that were just like spot on for what I had heard. And
I don't think
screams.
Go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
But I was saying both what I had heard. I mean, it just they were the same. The one in Idaho was the same as the one in Ohio. There wasn't anything different, and I linked it to after I got away from the one in Ohio, and as we got away from the one in Idaho, it sounded like it was frustrated and mad that we got away. It is how I interpreted that.
Yeah. I'm curious. I don't have the Puyallup screamer. I have a Snohomish scream I can play for you. Was it anything like this?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and those were very similar to the Puyallup screams also, because I'm from the Puyallup area.
Okay. Yeah, that sounded like it. Now, something I can say that was just kind of funny, I had told Wes earlier, up until just several years ago, I was a veterinary technician, and I worked for many, many years in the vet field. And one time when I was working at the clinic, we had, well, I shouldn't say one time, we had this patient whose owner was a park ranger here in the state of Ohio. And something came up one day about Bigfoot, and we were teasing about, well, if you ever get Bigfoot and needing vet attention, give us a call, And I finally kind of looked at him and I said, well, Mike, I said, have you ever seen or had any Bigfoot encounters? And he kind of looked at the wall and he said, I can neither confirm nor deny that. And I kind of looked at him and I said, Mike, He just kind of looked at me and shook his head. I can neither confirm nor deny that, and wouldn't say another word.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it was kind of funny. But
we appreciate you. I was gonna say we appreciate you sharing your encounter. I know it's tough to share your encounters, things that have happened to you. At least it was for me, and so I can imagine it's the same for everyone else around. I'm sure Will agree. When something like that's happened, it's hard to talk about.
Because nobody believes you, and you feel like you don't have anybody you can talk. The only person I could really talk to is my uncle, and he's got tons of encounters, but he's almost 90 now, and it makes it hard to get a good day to be able to talk with him. I'm going to try and get his Bigfoot stories on tape when he has good days so that I could have those. But he was the only one I could really ever talk to about it, and, I don't have that now. Consistently, I should say.
Yeah. Definitely try and get encounters from him, when he does have good days. I'm sure he's 90 years old. I'm sure he's a wealth of knowledge.
He is. He's just, like I said, if he's on these good days, he remembers everything and it's crisp and clear and he knows it. But if he's not having a good day, then it's not. I will say this: my oldest son, both of my children live in Jackson, Ohio, which is down in a lot of the southeastern portion of Ohio with the woodlands and stuff. And back in, I think it's either 1995 or 96, there is a documented sighting of a Bigfoot in Jackson County, Jackson, Ohio, on Pattonsville Road. And I was teasing my son the other day, and I said, "Isn't Pattonsville the road you live on the corner of?" And he said, "Yeah, that's just what I need." So, maybe they're still down there. Who knows? But if we ever see it, we'll call you back.
Yeah, please do. And keep in contact with us, Lynn. Again, our email is bigfoothotspot@gmail.com. And thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your encounter.
Thank you. Well, I just needed to kind of hear if you guys kind of thought that's what it was as well.
I think that's probably what it was. I mean, a lot of the screams and a lot of the behavior they described, it fits their behavior on what they tend to do, or what we've heard that they tend to do. So I really think that you probably had a Sasquatch encounter. Especially with the way it was following you. It's like I was saying with a bobcat. When a bobcat stalks you, they usually stalk you from the rear. I've never heard of a bobcat stalking you from the side.
Right. Well, and when we had the cougar stalk us up at Beauty Bay Resort, it stalked us from behind, up behind and above even. It didn't parallel us, and this one did.
Yeah, and they're not going to stop once they hit the tree line. They're going to keep coming. They're not worried so much about cover. If they're going to stalk you, they're going to keep stalking you until they either get you or you get away.
Right. That's what I thought. They don't seem to be as afraid as they're going to get you. They're going to get you and take you back in the trees. And
yeah.
So, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And thank you for answering my questions.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Appreciate it so much.
Okay. Well, and if I get my uncle some stories from him, I'll definitely share them with you.
Please do.
All right.
And thank you.
All right.
Thank you again, Lynn.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, I know we're getting down on time. We got a boatload of people in the call queue. If we don't get to you tonight, everyone in the call queue, please email us at bigfoothotspot@gmail.com and send us your encounter, and we'll have you on future shows. I promised Shane I would... Or go ahead, Will.
I was just going to say, the response has been huge, so we're definitely going to have to do more of these type of shows just to, be able to talk to people and let people discuss what they've seen or just questions they have. Or it's really been great, to see so much response. I was telling people in the chat room that, I've guested on quite a few Bigfoot radio shows, and usually there's very little response, 2 or 3 calls. And, we've got, what'd you say, 63 in queue?
66 now.
66 in queue.
Yeah,
so, yeah, we definitely appreciate everyone calling in and the response, and we do apologize if we don't, because we are running short on time. So we will, if we don't get you this time, we'll get you next time or another time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll go ahead and bring Shane on. I promised. Shane used to run the Monster X show. And
Okay,
he's starting up a new show. And Shane's always been a friend of the show. Him and I are buds. We send information back and forth on Facebook, and I promised that he could come on and promote his show real quick, and then we'll get to the next caller if we have time. Shane, you on?
Yes, I am. How you guys doing?
Hey, good. How are you, Shane?
Very good, very good.
Hey, Wes Woody. Thanks for having me on.
Actually, Will.
Yeah.
Sorry. Will,
yeah.
sorry.
That's all right. So tell us about the new show, Shane.
Well, basically, I don't want to take up too much of your time. You guys have a fantastic show, and you guys had some fantastic encounter stories on. And I just want to say, you guys are, if not the best show on Blog Talk. Love you guys' show, and we will definitely, part of my show will be promoting your show because it is a fantastic show. But basically, we're starting up a show called Cryptologic Radio. It's going to, our main focus is Bigfoot. It will include other cryptids, which most of our hosts are well-versed in. Our hosts include Mike Richburg, a.k.a. Apex Encounters, Shelley Covington, Montana, Cindy Bowers, and Russ Mock. And basically, we're creating, we love you guys' show, and we want to, we have a lot of things in common as to our goals. Getting encounter stories on there and getting some, we would like to get some of the bigger names out there, like I did with Monster X, to share their work, encounters, and whatnot. Cryptologic Radio, it's going to be a place to have serious discussion on scientific inquiry involved in the arena of cryptids investigation. We want to adhere to the scientific method in our research and ideology. We really want to, raise the bar. I believe you guys have with your show. We want to raise the bar too, and we want to have, we want to bring something new to the arena, as well as bring interesting, discussions and thoughts on what cryptids are. But, like I said, Bigfoot in specifically, something that I'm involved with personally in my research areas, and you guys know about those. And also, I'm involved with the Olympic Project with Derek Randalls and whatnot. So I want to raise the bar and, get guests that are going to bring things that are going to mean things to people, as well as, share a lot of encounter stories, because those are important.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. And when is your show going to be on?
It's going to be Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Our first show will be announced shortly, and we have a lot of encounter stories lined up. We also have a few big names lined up, with one particularly working on. I know a lot of people are going to listen into, because it's going to be a big show involving some of the most, I guess you could say, famous people throughout history in the field, and hopefully we can get that lined up, and it'll be a fantastic show. But regardless, our ideas and thoughts on doing what we're doing is to just bring something a little bit new to the field of Blog Talk Radio and enlighten people, and hopefully, we can provide a good format for people to enjoy our show.
Nice, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on. It's Cryptologic Radio, and it's on Wednesdays at what time? 8
p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can find us on Twitter at CryptologicRad, or on Facebook under Cryptologic Radio, and our email is cryptologicradio@gmail.com.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, thanks, guys. Fantastic show. I'll be listening in, and thank you so much for having me on.
You bet,
you're
Shane.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
All right, Will. Well, we got 20 minutes left. I feel bad. I feel like
we're one more caller.
I feel like we're shotgunning through all of these calls. I feel kind of bad. We're like, next.
I know we like to take a lot more time and let people discuss what they want to talk about, and get it out of their system instead of rushing people through these things.
Yeah, I feel bad. I feel like we're rushing people. But should we take one more?
Let's take one more.
All right. I guess I'll roll the dice here. Area code 801. 801, you're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
Hello?
Hi. You're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
Yes, you're speaking to Jason. How you doing?
Hey, Jason. Good. How are you doing?
Good. A buddy that I work with, he's a real big listener with you guys. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I've never heard of this radio talk show before, but he always listens to you guys, and I've told him some stories that I had one encounter myself, and another one that was told to me But I would like to tell you the one that I've had, if I could.
Yeah, take your time. Tell us what you were doing leading up to the encounter, and then go ahead and jump into the encounter.
Okay, man. This was it was in Vernal. I live in Utah, by the way, and we were archery elk hunting, and the area then was fairly new to me and my brother and my dad, and we were just mainly exploring more than anything, and we had our bows with us, and like I said, we were just looking for elk. And we were driving, there was this road, it's called the Red Cloud Loop Road, and it's just a big road, it's a loop around this national forest area. And we were just driving, and we seen some elk off the side of the road, so we all got excited. We jumped out of the vehicle, and my brother and my dad kind of went to the right, and the elk were in some quakies just off the side of the road. And the further you went down, the quakies kind of spread out wider and wider, and then it dipped down into a ravine into some pines. And so I kind of went by myself to the left, and my brother and my dad and they stood to the right. Well, my thought process was to go deep down into the pines, into the pines rather, and try to get on the other side of the elk. So that's what I did. I kind of hooked it down there. When I got down there, couldn't see anything. I didn't see my dad. I didn't see my brothers. I didn't see the elk. And so I was like, man, I was hoping I could maybe push the elk back to them, or they were going to scare the elk to me. Anyway, so that's what I was thinking. So while I'm sitting there, just looking around, trying to see where the elk were at, they disappeared. They ran off. So, it's starting to get chilled a little bit. I looked to my right behind me, and I would say maybe 30 to 40 yards away, and this isn't your typical Bigfoot sighting. What I saw was a head on top of a bush that was about 30 to 40 yards away, and it was staring back at me. And I'm getting a good view of it. I'm looking right at it. It's looking at me. And right away, I'm thinking, okay, what the hell am I looking at? Okay, it's not a deer, it's not an elk, it's not a moose. I know it's not a bear. All I seen was a head looking straight back at me, and it was probably, I would say, maybe 4 feet off the ground. And it was round, it was brown, the eyes were facing forward, but there was no ears, there was no snout. Well, I'll get to that here in a second. The reason why I knew the face was round and there was no snout or anything to it, because when it was looking at me, it would look away to its right. And then it would look at me again, and then it would look away to its right, which would be to my left. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what the hell? Because every time it turned its head, I didn't see no protrusion of a nose or anything. It was just a round head. So at this time, I'm freaking out, because then I was thinking, well, what else could it be other than, it has to be a bear. It's got to be a bear. Well, why would a bear cub be standing behind a bush, sitting there looking at me and not moving? I mean, a bear cub would run away, and pretty soon Mama Bear would be right on top of me. So it just stood there. It didn't move. It just stood behind this bush and just kept looking at me. And whenever it would look to its right, it was freaking me out, because it was looking at something else that it was with something, or it was with its partner, or I don't know, because I don't know what I was looking at. I couldn't make sense of what I was looking at.
And how far away were you from it?
This was probably 30 to 40 yards away. And
it was about 4 feet tall?
Well, I'm thinking that all I saw was the head, and it was on top of a bush. It was like kind of like a bug brush, maybe like a choke cherry kind of bush, and it was just a young tree bush thing that was about 3 feet high, and the head was right on top of it. And I'm telling you, I was looking at it like like you would look at somebody's face standing 30 yards away. And it freaked me out to no end, because I couldn't make sense of it. I know my animals. I'm 42 years old. This probably happened I was probably in my mid to late 20s. It freaked me out. anyways, so after having this little stare-off with it for about 2 to 3 minutes, I got freaked out because I didn't know what this thing was. And I went in the opposite direction of where it was at, and I hooked it back to my brothers and my dad, and I told them, and I'm like, I think I just seen a bear. I don't know what the hell I seen, but, and then I explained to them what I seen, and they're like, yeah, that wasn't no bear. And then we just kind of dropped it and left it at that. And I really didn't tell anybody this story. I told my wife now. I told her. I told a couple of buddies from work because they're kind of into the Bigfoot thing, you know. Yeah. But it was freaky. You know, I can't tell you what I saw, but I can tell you what I didn't see. That's what I always tell people because I know my animals and I know what I was looking at, and it freaked me the hell out.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a strange one. You never saw any other animals? You just saw it kind of looking off to its right?
It kept looking off to its right. No, I didn't see nothing else. Nothing else. I didn't see those elk. When I was down there at the bottom, I didn't see my brothers, my dad, my uncle was with us. I didn't see anything. I kind of beat them down into that canyon before they did. And I don't even think they even went down that far, to be honest with you. I think they kind of stood high, and they probably seen the elk leave, and I kind of hooked it way around the elk and got to the bottom. And I didn't see anything. I didn't smell anything. I didn't hear anything. I just saw what I saw.
And the rest of the body, was it obstructed by the brush? So its head was above the brush?
It was. I didn't see nothing but the head. That's all I seen was the head. And when I say head, I mean face, the head. Not like deer head, elk head, bear head. I seen a face. But it was brown. I couldn't make out hair because it was about 30 to 40 yards away. Yeah. But I know it had forward-facing eyes, and there was no ear. That's what freaked me out the most was I didn't see no ears, and I didn't see no snout because whenever it would look to the right, it was just flat. It was just a flat face.
I've heard that. Their profiles are kind of flat.
Yeah, right, it freaked me out. It freaked me out. And if any animal in the woods has ears, right? I mean, you're going to see the ears, especially that close. And I didn't see nothing. It was just a round head.
Has that changed your viewpoint about going out in the woods at all since you saw that?
No. I've been hunting ever since I was 8 years old. We still go archery elk hunting there every year. I've been going there for almost 20 years now. It's an area I love. We see tons of elk, tons of deer, moose. We see bear. We see everything. But that one time, what I saw, I haven't seen since. And to this day, I can't make sense of what I was looking at.
Yeah.
It was just a head. I mean, all I can say is I seen a face, head, on top of a bush looking right back at me, and it was probably maybe 4 feet high.
Wow.
And the brush that was in front of its body was, it was just enough there to cover its body, and that was it. It wasn't like a lot of brush. It was just one brush. And it was just wide enough and tall enough to where all I seen was its head on top of it. And he was staring back at me like he was watching me the whole time.
Interesting.
And,
I guess seeing a smaller one wouldn't so much scare you to the point where you wouldn't want to go back.
No, yeah. If this thing was, your typical 7-8 foot, yeah, I probably wouldn't care to go in that area anymore.
Yeah. I'm sure, just like Ramble One in our chat room says, I'm sure that Mama was behind you watching you or off to the side watching him. Yeah.
Well, you see, over the years, because I get into Bigfoot too, but at the time it didn't dawn on me that I could maybe possibly looking at a juvenile Bigfoot.
Yeah.
It didn't dawn on me. It did not even dawn on me then. It dawned on me years later because of the way it was acting and the way it was looking. It would look at me, and then it would look to the right, and then it would look at me, and then it would look to the right, and every time it looked to the right, it's like it was looking for reassurance or something, for somebody else or something else.
And it wasn't making any noise or anything?
No. It would just stare at me, then it would look to its right, but it was looking to its right just enough to where I was getting the full aspect of its head. And that's what freaked me out even more is every time it turned its head. because normally I'm used to looking at animals, right? Well, it wasn't your typical animal.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, it was freaky. It was really freaky. It really freaked me out. It scared the shit out of me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Even though it was only 4 feet high, but I knew I was looking at a head, and that's what creeped me out more than anything.
Kind of one of those, what the hell is this kind of a moment.
Exactly. And to this day, I still can't say either way was I looking at a little baby Bigfoot? I don't know. I know what I was looking at. I was looking at a head, a face, looking back at me.
Wow. Well, we appreciate you sharing it very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, I've never called you guys before or anything like that, but my buddy from work encouraged me to call you. And I was like, well, what the hell? I'll tell my story. I tell it the same way every time. This is what happened. That's what I've seen. That's what I experienced. And that's all I can say.
Well, we certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Interesting. You don't hear too many of the juvenile encounters very often.
Not very often, no. Very seldom.
Yeah. Well, I know we're getting down to the end of the show, and I know we have a long list of people still waiting to call in. So I wanted to tell everyone again, if you would, please email us your encounters. It's bigfoothotspot@gmail.com. Send us your encounters, and we will have you on the show. I want to apologize to all the people we didn't get to. There's a huge list of people we didn't get to. But I want to thank
everyone.
Yeah, and we
want to say thank you for everyone calling in to try to get on the show. We sure appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to thank everyone in the chat room, especially No Shoes Curly, because I know he lives out in the brush, and I know he doesn't have internet. I know he lives off the grid, and I know it took an extra effort for him to get, find internet and log in and everything.
He probably put on his special, paper pants, the clean pair to come in and.
Yeah. So thank you, No Shoes. We appreciate you being a part of the show.
We certainly do.
But until next week, everyone.
We should adopt him as our mascot.
We should. We should.
What's everyone think about that? Should we adopt No Shoes Curly as our mascot for Sasquatch Chronicles?
He says Kroger pants for the show. The store Kroger. He could be our field expert. He could be our show expert.
Okay.
Oh man, too much. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks. I want to thank everyone again for calling in. Thank everyone in the chat, everyone for listening, and